my name is Grace. Today I'll be serving as the moderator for the workshop. I'm a part of the initiative as well, helping with some technical points. But for the workshop today, because we want to engage with you during some discussion breaks, I'll ask that if you have a question at all during a section, you leave the question in the chat and we'll come back to it. Otherwise, we can bring up those questions during the breaks and I can help facilitate the question sessions. As well, if you're having any technical difficulties, please send a message, as well as what Julia said about the speed or other issues. Feel free to send a message at any moment or to raise your hand. And a reminder that today's session is being recorded, but you will, as participants, not be visible in the recording, so you will only be able to hear the audio from the recording. And a reminder to keep yourself muted just so that we can focus best on the presentation. And if you want to see the best view of today's presentation, to make your screen full screen and try to minimize the speaker view so you can see better the font. And yeah, without further ado, I want to introduce today's speaker, Gabrielle, who's going to be leading us in the workshop.
Yeah, thank you, Grace, and thank you, Julia. And thank you for everybody who is attending today. I'm the AI Solution Architect at AI for NGO. Normally I consult on projects related to AI data and automation and its technical implementation. On the other hand, I also help organizations to understand, strategize, and also manage innovative technologies like AI. And so today, in this workshop, we will be talking more about what is AI, to understand it on a technical level, but also on an applicable level. And also we will have some more hands-on experience on how to use AI applications yourself. What we will not talk about is in-depth technical or ethical questions. These things will be reserved for our future workshops. And in the same time, if you do have questions or curiosity related to these topics, you're welcome to send us an email and talk about these. On another note, because also like previously you guys have mentioned that there will be like not everyone speak English as their mother tongue, and so I will try to speak as slow as possible and as clear as possible. But in the same time, if you do have question or like related to this, you can let me know. And if you do have questions related to a specific section that we just talked about, we do also leave these time for you to raise those questions or share your understanding. And with that, let's dive in. So first, why is it important for NGOs to learn about AI? Because we believe AI is a key technology for amplifying NGO impact, and it works for, in this social impact survey, we do see that both the grant maker or the nonprofit organization have tested traditional and generative AI, and they do find positive impact on their work. And AI can also lead to a significant productivity gain. And so, for instance, in the Stanford AI Index report, they found out that AI improves both efficiency and output quality, and it can potentially help bridge skill gaps between workers. And in this research, using Microsoft Copilot, so for the common task, so day-to-day workflow, the Copilot, so AI user, improved their time efficiency by 71%. AI is also a technology that can help accelerate scientific progress. So for instance, it helps scientific discovery and medical development. In this case, we can look at the model that used to predict COVID mutation. So the previous model was on 24%, whereas the AI-powered model increased this accuracy by double. And not only that, AI also has this profound social impact, especially for the future generation. So studies already starting to find out that teenagers use AI for obtaining information, but also for emotional and social support, and which is a very important thing for us to have oversight on. And so at this point, we can say that AI will have a broad and deep impact on our entire society. And so it will not only our organizations, but also our donors and beneficiaries. And at this point, it is not only about organizational efficiency, but it's also our shared social responsibility in terms of to be able to advocate for the ethical use of AI, or to safeguard for our beneficiaries, or to represent the vulnerable communities within our society. And so within our workshop today, you will learn about both technical knowledge and also applicable skills. On one hand, we will learn a bit more about what is AI, how to navigate its capabilities and limitations. And later, we will also see how to use AI for our own personal productivity gain and how to write prompts that generate high quality output. And we want to combine the both because we believe that the hands-on experience is key for understanding to a technology. And the more you can use it, the more you understand it, and the more you can advocate for it or against it. So the first section is, what is AI? In a very broad term, actually, artificial intelligence is any systems that simulates human intelligence and problem-solving skills. And here we have a set of questions. So I will let you read through, and if you want, you can type your answer in the chat because I won't be able to see the chat. Grace, you can let me know if people have answered or what's people's answer. I will give you a bit of time to look through, and you can choose to answer in the chat. Grace, do you see any response?
From NGO Words and Deeds says all of the above.
Mm-hmm. And other opinion?
Yes, all of the above from Ula.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert says same
Okay. So,
agreement.
and the answer is correct. All of the above. So intuitively, I think like we already have a really good understanding on what is artificial intelligence, and that is great. And so the next step, a bit deeper, generative AI is, I'm pretty sure everybody have already heard about it on media, is a type of AI that generates new data that are similar to its training data. So in one of the example on the right side, here from ChatGPT, a model from OpenAI, it says, so the user input is what we call a prompt. And here we say, can you write a haiku about peace? And the output from AI is here. And this is generated by the AI because they are trained on the massive amount of data that are similar. So like the OpenAI models are trained by using public data such as news articles, books, or public tweets. But there are also some controversy related to if this is like fully legal, that the way they obtained these training data. And the next one is large language model, or sometimes people refer to it as LLM. It is the foundation for most of the generative AI solutions. So for instance, on the right side, we have the example of Canva, and this is their Magic Studio. So here you can see that you can use text to create video, or you can use text, so the prompt, to generate image, or you can also use text to create graphics. And in this case, we will know that both text or video or image and graphics, they are all part of the training data. And so let's review. We have artificial intelligence, which is any systems, very broadly speaking, that simulates human intelligence and problem-solving skills. And then a step further is the generative AI. It can generate data that are similar to its training data, such as texts, audios, images, videos. And large language model is a specific type of generative AI, and it powers different Gen AI applications, and it is best at understanding and generating languages. And for now, if there's any questions or reflections that you would like to share.
I'm here as well if you want to message something in the chat. Prefer that I share it with the group. And Gabby's asking here for some reflections or questions related to why is it important for NGOs to learn about AI and what is AI generally.
Okay, if there's, well, thank you for responding. I guess then I will continue. So in this section, we will look at how to navigate AI capabilities and its limitations. So first of all, AI is completely revolutionizing the way we interact with computers. So in the past, in the 50s, you have huge room full of electronics and cables, and you have to do very complex calculation and physically move a lot of things to be able to compute or calculate certain things. And then we start to have a bit better PCs, but they're still bulky and not easiest to use. And also programmers needed, or even just regular users needed to be able to write specific type of languages to be able to communicate with the computers. But with large language model, right now, we can simply use the natural language or Apple Intelligence. So we can use natural human language as a new programming language, and computers will understand us instantly. And to be able to just write one simple sentence, such as draft a proposal from yesterday's meeting notes, and to getting the complete output is very difficult for people from this era to imagine. And so we should also start to think about, since we're all using the natural human language, such as English, to communicate with both humans and AI, in this case, we can think of AI as your new teammate and you as the director. So we have to understand that there are certain set of strengths and flaws of your AI teammate, just like any human person. Here, your AI teammate is smart, adaptive, creative, and analytical, and they're very knowledgeable across many disciplines. They can talk about coffee, or they can talk about NASA mission, and they can talk about biopharmaceutical insights, or anything that you want in this world. And they can work across different functions and roles, as an accountant, as a marketer, or as an analyst. But in the same time, it has some flaws. For instance, sometimes it can make things up. It can be biased, or it doesn't have most updated information, and it does not have the knowledge about your organization yet. And so to be able to help facilitate your AI teammate, you need to be able to guide your AI. So here are a set of actions required from the human director. You need to be able to help define the goals and provide context for your teammate. You need to be able to guide your teammate on the task to be completed. You need to review and refine their output, and you are responsible for making decisions and ensure alignment. And so now let's look at AI's core capabilities. And the first one is AI is very capable of generating content. So for instance, for NGOs, it could help you to generate grant proposals, protocols, emails, social media content, or action plans, and even more. So a wide variety of text content. An example that we can see here is so I will give you some time to read at this So here we say you are a grant writer for AI for NGO, an NGO that helps other NGOs adopt AI through process improvement, policy support, and training. Draft a proposal for secure funding. And then we also wanted to, and I will let you read a bit more. And here we can see this is AI's output. We have introduction, project overview on the specific things that we want to achieve within our initiative, the rationale section, and expected tangible outcome, and a brief conclusion. But once again, I would still suggest people to just use this as a draft or a starting point for your work and not to use it as the final output directly. And next is content transformation. So AI is very good at translating languages because large language models are built on top of different language texts. Adopt your content for specific target groups. For instance, sometimes you need to communicate with children or elderlies. You need to communicate with medical professionals, EU councils, or just the posts on LinkedIn. So the second example, say that we did get the grant, and now we want to have a LinkedIn post to announce it. And we want to use emojis and have the post less than 100 words. And here we have the post with emojis and less than 100 words. Also use some hashtags for LinkedIn effect, I guess. And the third core ability for AI is content analysis. So it can help you to analyze data and trends, and also summarize key points from long articles, and also help you to analyze sentiments in online reviews or overall trends. And it can also help you to provide feedback. Personally, I find this very helpful because I try to write things and I still want to use my human intelligence as much as I can. And whenever it can help me improve my writing or my coding, I really appreciate that. So it provides feedback on how I write or your process or organizational structures and many other things. And here is an AI power user journey. Once people start to learn more and more about how to use AI or how to navigate through different capabilities, we see there's a common pattern on how we use it or where do people progress. So oftentimes we see people start to use AI like a search engine. We want to find the information. And so the question could be, who was the first female astronaut? And then we want to just get the information. And this is also a valid way of using it. But remember, it does not have the most up-to-date information. And then people start to understand AI has a lot more capability by playing around and then understanding the core capabilities. So we start to use AI as a productivity tool that can complete many different text-based tasks, such as extract contact data from these screenshots and put the output in a structured table. And then you will be able to get a downloadable Excel most of the time. And then people start to understand AI has such broad knowledge. We can also learn from this. And so people start to use AI as your thought partner. For instance, they set the role and say, you are the executive manager of AI for NGO, and how should we design the partnership strategy? And there's a back and forth conversation in which sparks interest and help brainstorm different ideas. And so after understanding its capabilities, we should also to understand its limitations and risks. So the first one is hallucination. And this simply means that it will make things up. The reason why AI will hallucinate is when, or hallucination is when it starts to generate outputs that are not correct, does not make sense, or are detached from reality. So in this example here, we can see that the AI says that yes, an egg can be melted, whereas we all know that when eggs are heated up, they will start to congeal. And so AI makes common sense mistake. And how we should understand is that AI is creative content writer, but it is not a rigorous journalist. It does not have the fact or truth always. And AI is also bad at saying no. I don't know, because it's really eager to help you to complete the task. And some research study found that AI hallucinates around 5% of the time. And for the specific ChatGPT model, it is less than 2% of the time. And we should be very aware of this and always try to fact check. And so what do we do about AI hallucination? First, as we already mentioned, know that it gives you a head start. It gives you a nice draft, but it's not the final output. You still need to put in the effort. And you should always judge and review using your own knowledge, experience, and even your intuition. And lastly, you should also consider combining the power of AI and search engine algorithms. So in this case, because AI can help with creative content, that's what its strength at. So writing summaries or creative texts, explain concepts, simplifying complex ideas or create examples or analogies and metaphors, and solve specific problems. And whereas Google or other search engine, they're better at finding facts. For instance, if you want to find any academic sources or journal articles or specific dates or statistics that are publicly available, use Google. Get real-time information. AI does not have the latest news or up-to-date information. So if you want to have the latest news or to know the current weather or local information, use a search engine. And the general search, like looking for reviews, gathering different sources or varied opinions online, and search engine will be more helpful, and AI can also help you to understand or synthesize these information. And so the second weakness of AI is the biases it could have. Because AI systems can reflect demographic, ideological, and representational biases that humans have, that we have in our society. And in this example, we see that when this image generator was prompted to generate image for CEO, it only generated white men. And this is an example for biases. And these biases can relate to race, gender, socioeconomic status, age, disability, sexual orientation, political orientation, culture and religion, and more. And these biases is the reflection of our social inequalities that are exhibited in the training data, because it is trained in the past data, and the historical data will always reflect the decisions and the biases that existed in these decisions. And so what to do about this kind of algorithmic biases? And we first need to reduce the actual inequalities that exist in the real world. And if you are working in NGO sectors, I believe that you are also part of the solution and you are working hard towards it. And on the other side, so we have the AI engineers and we also have the end users, that we both can help mitigate these biases. And on one hand, for the engineers, they can technically reduce the biases in the training data. They can clean it or transform it. And they can also use content moderation frameworks that's provided by different companies or set up by different organizations. And they should always be transparent about potential biases for people who to use it. And on the other hand, for the end users, we should try to avoid misleading input. And by that, for instance, if I say, why is pickle not good? And this already has a pre-assumption that pickle is not good. And therefore, we should try to already put our pre-assumption within the question. And secondly, we should always review the output and be critical about the potential bias. And we should also remember that the hallucination could also be related to this. And thirdly, some people also think that you can ask AI to self-assess its output. Sometimes it is effective, and you should always use this as a reference. And the third weakness, it does not have the most updated information. Because it is always trained using the public data, companies and organizations can also choose to train them with private data, but it is very less common due to the amount of data required for this kind of training. And therefore, these data are not updated. These AI models are not updated in real time. And now there are different AI search engines combining both large language model and search engine algorithm, and they can find new information, but their basis, so the training data, is often still more than half a year outdated. And lastly, it does not have internal knowledge of your organization. We have seen some people trying to use AI within their context, but frustrated because they could not get the ideal output because it does not know about your organization. And there are a lot of cloud providers are trying to bring AI into your personal or organizational knowledge and data set, and regulations such as GDPR and Europe Union's AI Act are major guardrails to protect the data safety and privacy. And so for this section, we learned that we should think of AI as a teammate and you as the director, and you should be aware of its capabilities and its flaws. And also, when you use AI, you should always review and be critical about its output, and you only use it as a head start, and you can provide the end or the final output. And so for this section, because it's rather long, do we have any questions or reflections or things that you want to share?
Martinez says this is a great approach to see AI as a teammate. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, also just to mention that we also want to have further discussion or workshop on how to mitigate AI risks and weaknesses. Yeah, very important to always question AI's result. Yes, I agree. I heard about AI. I think it's Enrique. So Enrique says, I heard about AI specialized trained with specific information about an industry or organization. It is possible. So for instance, it is really difficult for this general trained AI, say that it's ChatGPT or Claude, to know about very specific medical related data or information. And therefore, when you ask them very specific surgery related question, it will not be able to respond or answer you. But there is possible to train them on specific industry data. In this case, these medical or surgery related information so that it can give you more accurate information. But there are also alternatives. For example, you have an existing large language model, and you can use this specific industry information to fine tune this model to make it, to give it like additional, to let it learn basically more information about that specific use case that you want to explore. And there are also other different technical ways to solve this problem. So yes, it is possible. And I hope, and you can write in the group, in the chat and let me know if I did answer your question. Yeah.
You can also feel free in these pauses to unmute yourself to share out loud as well, just to say that in case anyone would like to speak.
Yeah, I would also be happy to talk to people.
From Sophie, question. Is it normally easy to find what information the more popular models are trained on in terms of sources, etc.?
I would describe this training, okay, so to this question, I would say no, in the sense that, so for instance, like a large language model, it has billions of parameters and it is training on huge corpus of text data. And in this process, these companies have web crawlers. So like they gather information from online sources and use these text data to train the model. I think some of the companies publicly state which sources their data come from, but because the billions or even trillion data points, it is very hard to distinguish. But I think, for instance, like previously I've seen for ChatGPT, OpenAI within like GitHub, so like the place where they share their codes, they have a better description about where this data come from and how many percentage was in English and how many percentage was in other language. So for instance, ChatGPT really excel in English because I think like around 90% of the text data were in English, and then it's German and French and Mandarin, etc., etc., etc. But more specifically, like sources, I think it's quite difficult to find. Yeah. I mean, currently there are also active lawsuits related to copyright infringement about like the AI training, and ethical AI training is also a very important topic. So I think this is a very good question and really good awareness. Okay, looking at the time, I would also jump back to the presentation. And so in this next section, we're gonna start to move towards a bit more applicable skills to understand how we can use AI for our personal productivity gain. So first, I would like to share this research from Microsoft and LinkedIn. They use this survey data. So AI is impacting people's experience at work and in different ways. So there are 4 groups of participants that they classified. Uh, the first type is people who are still skeptical about using AI, and they use AI only a few times a month. And then there are people who are novices, and they are kind of familiar with AI and yeah, also don't use it as often. And there are some explorers, and they use AI a few times a month or once a week. And there are the power users who use AI at least of several times per week or on a daily basis. And so here we can see that there are a set of statements related to how AI impacted people's work and the percentage of each group who agree with these statements. So for instance, in the highlight, it says that AI helps me to be more creative, or AI helps me be more productive, and it helps me focus on most important work. And we can see that the power user very much agree with these statements, while in the same time, skeptics, yeah, don't think that it has the same effect. And therefore, in this case, we can see that the more you use it, the more it can help you with the certain task. because it does come with understanding and it does come with skills. And we could also see that there are some other statements, such as it says that it helps me enjoy my work more, or it helps me focus on more fulfilling work, or AI makes me feel more motivated about my work. And so in this statement, we can see there's also shows a higher work satisfaction that AI brings for people. And so we can also look at let's do some simple napkin math to calculate the productivity gain that the power users say that AI can bring. So power users say that AI can save them more than 30 minutes per day, and let's say that's half an hour. We look at this, say that in a year we work 45 work weeks, because we also have a few weeks or a month for vacation. And we work 5 days a week, so 225 work days per year for us. And every day we save half an hour. That's going to be 112.5 hours saved, and which is 14 work days and almost 3 work weeks saved. And this is quite a lot of time. And we also need to remember that just like learning to use Excel, and there will be a learning curve for using the AI tools. So practice is key. And also for some people who have not learned how to use Excel, you can also use AI to learn Excel. And so you're doing both in the same time. And to be able to help people understand how to adopt AI in a more practical way, we will introduce the STOP framework to improve personal productivity. And so we will look at how to set up, test, audit, and prompt AI. So first step is to set up a workspace for yourself and your AI teammate. And there are some AI that can be integrated in your existing workflow, such as Google Gemini. It can be integrated with Google Drive and Gmail directly, or Microsoft Copilot. Some people, if you use Microsoft products, maybe you already seen this. It can be integrated with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and Teams. And there are also some standalone workspace that you can set up. For example, Perplexity. This is a search or AI search engine that provide answer using online sources, and it will give you these sources so that it has improved credibility. And ChatGPT. This is an AI all-rounder that functions as a chatbot, which is also will be most of related to today's content. So to set up first, after you set up a workspace, let's look at how we can help your team to succeed. We need to onboard your team member. Say that you have like a new person coming into your office, and you need to help them to understand what is this about and how does the workflow look like. And in this case, it means that we need to customize your ChatGPT instruction. So to be able to provide context about you and your organization, and to help your new teammate understand their role, and to also clarify your expectation of their output. And here we also will show you an example. So after we navigate into ChatGPT, we could see that. So on this side, we have the chat history. This is what we just talked about. And I would also say that if you want to get the most out of it, you can try to upgrade a plan where you have more things that you can play with. And here in the center is a box to help you to write the prompt. The messages that you type inside is the prompt, and it is your input. And here we can attach different files. And here we can also use different functions, for example, generating images, search the web, or using a Canva to collaborate on things, or to turn on the search mode. And then on this part of the screen, we will find customized ChatGPT. And here we can help our new teammate to understand, for instance, a little bit more about ourselves and about our organization. And for instance, here, like in the example, we say that My name is Mo, and this is how I like to be addressed. I live in this place, so it understands that maybe I would also use a different language. And I work as a program manager at this NGO that helps underprivileged communities to access healthcare. And what I'm currently working on is to improving the community outreach strategy so that the answer from ChatGPT will be a bit more relevant to this. But also I wanted to know that I love jazz and playing with my dogs. And so how would I like ChatGPT respond? Here we can define many different things. And first we said that you are my teammate, and we give it the name Jax. And the way you should answer me is casual, brief, and concise language. And often we appreciate good bullet points. And we also want the AI to not be opinionated and always look at things from several perspectives so that we can have a balanced understanding and try to reduce the bias. And we enable different capabilities here. So after you have set up the workspace for yourself and your teammate, I think it's time to just play around because AI is just fascinating. When I first started using it, or generative AI was just fascinating. When I first started using it, I was like very wowed by it. And I also think that fun is a super important motivator for learning more about the technology. And also testing helps you to understand its boundaries. For instance, I spent quite some time to prompt different things to figure out, okay, what kind of content is not allowed and what kind of content is okay or safe. So that would also help you to understand better. And so another example, like this is also something that I discovered quite recently, that to use AI to help me to identify photos. So here, can you guess when was this photo taken? If you want, you can write in the group chat and give it a guess. There are some hints. So for instance, like maybe some writing, uh, people stressing, etc., etc. And we can also try to put this in AI and see what it says. And if there are people guessing, Grace, you can let me know. I'm gonna show you the image for a second. Okay, well, so we will look at the AI's answer. It says that it seems to be an older print feature, featuring a Mexican market scene titled Mercado de Amecameca. So based on the style of the image, architecture, and clothing, it looks like it's from 1940s or 50s. And so the image actually is from this Austrian photographer that I like, and I also have some of his prints. And this was indeed part of his collection, Pueblo, that he shoot during the 1940s. And so that was a pretty good analysis. And I was also like, wow, really blown away by the ability, because if I didn't know the photographer and simply looking at this image, I wouldn't have known much more about it. Okay, and so after you played around with ChatGPT, and if you are more curious or you feel like you can extend your understanding to more things, and there are also many other tools that was like supported or powered by AI and that has like different capabilities. And for instance, more than just being able to chat with you, there's video generation and editing, or helping you to do graphic design, an AI that helps with transcription and meeting. So I don't really like writing meeting minutes, and I use an AI to help me with that. To make presentations, or to build a website. I also use the website builder to help me fastly prototype the website that I want to, and then I adjust and to create the final output with my input. And so the third step, after testing and playing around, and we should start to get a bit more in depth. And we can start this by looking at our own workflow and to understand what we can delegate to AI and what we can still do mostly by ourselves. So we can say that there are part of like different types of tasks that we all do on a day-to-day basis. And there are some of the manual muscles and there are some mental muscles. So manual muscles, tasks that are tasks that require physical or repetitive input, and mental muscles are tasks requiring strategic thinking, decision making, or complex problem solving. So you need to think more. And in this case, let's say that these are the tasks that Mo need to do for Health Bridge, and what tasks we can delegate to AI. So first, for the manual muscle side, we can probably delegate the data entry. This is a repetitive work. And there are also like routine inquiries where we can answer these emails using AI to help us with the drafts. And then on the other side, with the mental muscles, we can use AI to help us to develop strategies to brainstorm what kind of things we can do to increase the outreach and community engagement. And we can also analyze data related to to have insights related to our task. We can also design training programs for the healthcare staff that we work with. And we can use it to help us draft grant proposal. But there are some other tasks that might just not work so well. For example, handle the logistics for on-the-ground activities, or monitor and track the inventory that we have. And these are just not going to work with AI at this current stage. And lastly, prompting. So I think to be able to use AI, as we previously mentioned, that we should start to consider it as our artificial intelligent teammate. And just like how we need to communicate with our human teammate, we should also follow a certain principle. So here is the 3C principle for communication. So regardless who we're communicating, we want to be clear, and we want to be able to provide enough context for people or our teammate to understand our intent. And we don't want to use vague or jargons that only few people understand. And when necessary, we also want to use examples to clarify what do we want or constraint. For example, in the previous text, we said 100 words for the LinkedIn post to avoid the output becoming excessively long. And the second C is to be concise. So if we have a lot of things in mind, we probably will try to communicate them in a more smaller, manageable questions or tasks for whoever we're trying to communicate to. And we should also try to avoid overloading the input with irrelevant or redundant information that are not super relevant to like what we want our teammate to complete. And lastly, we want to be consistent with our communication. So say that we use certain things to indicate that this is the specific task that we want to do, or we write in all cap. We should try to keep the format consistent and style. And we should also regularly reinforce the key ideas or objectives, because sometimes when the tasks start to become too long, we tend to forget what we are supposed to do from the initial briefing. So this is a step-by-step process or framework on how to implement AI tools. Right now, we showed you ChatGPT, but this can also be applied to any other AI tools that you want to use in the future. The section is also a bit long. Want to understand? Yeah.
I'll start off with a question that happened during the presentation, Gabby, Enrique asked about setting up our AI teammate on ChatGPT. When we customize, is it possible to use any language
Yes,
set of information?
yes. But just like we previously mentioned that ChatGPT is trained in like different languages, but English is the most dominant one, and so like it gives the most consistent and high quality output in English, but it is also really good for some other languages. I would suggest you to play around a little bit, try to write, like open different pages and try to write the same prompt in English and in whichever language you use, like in another chat, and to compare the output. And if you think that there is a significant quality difference, then maybe consider to not do it. But if you think that the quality of the output is quite comparable, then I encourage you to use whichever language you prefer. Yeah. Okay. And more questions? I would also encourage you to directly speak to us if you feel like.
We have a question from Sophie in the chat. It says, do we know how much of the information we share with ChatGPT is stored or further used in OpenAI? Are there any security consequences we should be aware of? And then more of a fun question. What for you is the most impactful, exciting application of AI in the NGO space?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for the first question, yes, and I would also like to be able to do a demonstration. So here in the setting, can you guys see my screen? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So in the setting, you can navigate to the data control. And if you say that improve the model for everyone is on, it means that you allow your content to be used to train the model, but you can turn it off. And so this can be done. And also, like, I would strongly recommend people who are using AI to still anonymize your data or pseudo-anonymize. So change like the name if there are personal information. But this is something that we also want to talk more about in our further workshop about AI risks and AI governance, and to talk a little bit more about the relationship or how we navigate GDPR and European's AI Act, but also depending on like where you located, there could be different policies and regulation related. Yeah. And the question, yes, the security consequences would be, I would suggest that if you didn't turn it off, try to avoid putting in personal information, or absolutely try to avoid personal information. And if you do want to try use other AI tool, you can also search if they are GDPR compliant, given that you are located within Europe. And the last question about what is an impactful, exciting application of AI in NGO space? I think like the one on top of my head, I mean, there are a few. The one on top of my head would be, so there are a team of people that developed this AI based on computer vision that you can take a photo, and then this AI will help the team to identify or like help to evaluate if a child is malnourished. And I think that really helped solved or like saved a lot of time for the team that are on the ground, because a lot of times things are not super accessible in this kind of situation. And lately we also saw another use case whereas a chatbot that supports midwives. Sometimes like people in communities with very little resources and very little access to information, they the midwives have to make very urgent and difficult decisions in certain situation, and this chatbot was able to help answer or like provide information when it comes to these urgent information where they needed the medical advice. Yeah, and I think this is pretty cool.
Yes, thank you for sharing, Sophie. Sorry that your mouth is a bit numb.
Sorry about that. The setting that I just showed, is it automatically on about the privacy or security? Yes, it is. I think I would assume that it is automatically on because companies will not miss this kind of opportunity to gather as much data as possible. So yeah, if you do have concern, go into the setting, data management, and turn it off. And they phrase it in such a way, do you want to improve the community? I think, yeah. Okay, then I will continue. So picking up at where we left, how to write prompts that generate high quality outputs. So once again, I want to remind everybody that in this process, you are a director with great communication skills, which I am sure you are, working with your colleagues or coworkers and teammates. And as we all know that before we get into a meeting or a briefing, we always need to prepare ourselves with this communication. And there are a few questions that I tend to ask myself to help me prepare for these kind of situation. So first one, we should think about, say that we're going into a meeting, what is my teammate's role? Are they an analyzer or analyst or a writer or social media manager or etc. or program manager? And what is my objective with this meeting or briefing? Do we want to brainstorm something? Are we analyzing a specific data set? Or we want to generate content for our website or our blogs? And who is our target audience? Are we like trying to produce output that will be reviewed by government officials? Are we talking to children? Are we engaging the internal teams in our NGOs? And what kind of information can we provide about the specific context? So related to our NGO, related to the specific group of people that we're trying to work with, related to our partner, when that will be, and how will we do this kind of thing, and what exactly. So the context really is really important because once again, it's trained on public data and does not right now have out of the box, doesn't have access to our internal data. The more we can describe something, the better it will understand and the better the output. And what is the scope of our request? So we should focus on providing specific materials that really support the context that we just talked about here. And what is the desired output format? And so do we want to receive a summary of a specific article? Are we thinking about an outline for a workshop, or we want a downloadable Excel? And then the step two is once you have a good idea on what do you want, we will move on to actually writing the prompt as an input to ChatGPT or any other AI tools you want to use. And we instruct them on the specific task we want them to complete. And the 6 components that we identified previously in the previous slide, here we will make an example. And this is the same prompt that we used at the beginning in this demonstration. And so first we will look at what is the role. Here we say that you are a grant writer for AI for NGO, and we provide the context. So AI for NGO is an NGO that helps other NGOs to adopt AI through process improvement, policy support, and training. And so this is the context. The specific task is to draft a proposal to secure funding for the safety initiative. And the audience is from the EU grant. And the scope is we're focusing on training program, policy frameworks, and ethical adoptions. And lastly, the output format. So we want the tone to be formal, concise, and also under 300 words. And we wanted to highlight the mission and expected outcomes. And so here is a complete prompt with all 6 elements combined. And lastly, sometimes it's difficult for us to expect our teammate to be able to immediately done a task well, just like we also need to write drafts before we complete a task. So we have to help it to improve step by step. The first thing we can do is to be able to provide feedback. And then we should also remember to be patient with your teammate and with yourself. Like we said, that learning how to use AI is also, there will be a learning curve, and we should always be patient and to make this process fun. And lastly, is also very important, is to take the ownership for yourself. So your AI teammate will give you the head start, but you have to make the decision and you have to ensure alignment and deliver the final output yourself because you are the team lead, you're the director. And the last part about prompting. Do we have any questions? Reflections?
Maybe you can also share in the chat or with a group if it resonates with you. This model makes sense. A simple yes or no, thumbs up if it's something you could imagine implementing, for example. Sophie says yes. Enrique, very clear. Felisa, helpful. Good.
Yeah, I'm also curious if you guys have seen the AI handbook. And within that, we also, in the last section, we also talked a little bit more about prompting and we give out NGO-specific examples. And if you have seen that, you can also write in the chat, yes, I have seen it, and this is how I think about it, or no, I have not, and I intend to check it out.
And if you received an email today, you'll also find the link to the handbook there. So you can always go back after today's meeting to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And we have it available on our LinkedIn as well, and will be on the website. So should be easy to access.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're also expecting to extend our content to different tutorials. So like we will make short videos to show, other than ChatGPT, how to use some other AI tools. And we will also update that in our LinkedIn posts and social media, also on our website. And so that's like, you should always be able to find these tutorials for yourself or share it with your teammate if you find them helpful.
Great. Looks like a lot of people are interested in the handbook and will follow up with it. So we look forward to hearing your feedback also.
Yeah. And also the handbook will be a living document so that I will update it whenever there are latest news or latest change related to certain things. Yeah. Okay. Then I will just go back to the presentation. Okay, so a little review on what you have learned today. On one hand, the technical knowledge. I hope now you know what is AI, and which intuitively everybody seemed to understand really well. And the definition for generative AI and large language model, and how to navigate AI's capabilities related to generating content, transforming content, analyzing different content or data, and providing your feedback, and the limitation related to how AI could sometimes have hallucination and make things up, and how you can mitigate that through reflecting or questioning the output using your experience, knowledge, and intuition, and also using the help of a search engine, and also related to the biases that AI could have and other risks related to AI. And we also talked a little bit more about applicable skills. So how to use AI for the personal productivity gain. We introduced the STEP framework, which later we would also wish that you can follow this framework to set up your workspace, to test and play around with the AI. Also to audit your workflow, to think about which task I actually want to or can use the help of AI, and which I don't think it's going to be the best use case. And also, lastly, how to write the best prompts to generate high quality outputs, because oftentimes the better the input, the better the output. And so thank you very much for being part of today's journey.